Well, that and a raft of other stories, of course, this morning on polling, the opinion polls that were just released yesterday by Infotrack and also by Ipsos. We ask you this morning, do you think there is likely to be a presidential runoff come August the 8th? Do you think there is likely to be a presidential runoff come August the 8th? You can hit us on Twitter. AM Live NTV is a Twitter handle. AM Live NTV is our profile name on Facebook. Once more, do you think Kenya is likely to face a presidential runoff on August the 8th, right? You know, our platforms, AM Live NTV is Twitter, is our Twitter handle. AM Live NTV is a profile name on Facebook, and 20505 is our SMS portal. Recently also, Professor Anyang Nyong'o released his manifesto for Kisumu, right? We can see how also the traders, they're crying foul on how the situation of the market there. And we want to know if that also is aptly captured in his manifesto. Very briefly, as I introduce also amongst us, we have Dr. Shem Ochuodho, who is the global leader of Kenya Diaspora Alliance. Also, we have Member of Parliament Isaac Mwaura, who is nominated Member of Parliament. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Right. Let's just begin with the governor, right, because we are seeing they are crying foul there in Kisumu. We wonder, what have you captured also for the people of Kisumu, given your manifesto?
Yes, I wish I could have brought a copy, but I gave you a copy.
Yes.
But good morning.
Good morning to you.
My colleague, I'm glad to see my student in politics, Isaac Mwaura, here today.
Well, you guys go way back, huh?
Oh, yes. This is, yeah. Now, look, I did elaborate on that in my manifesto. In fact, what Governor Nguma is saying there is not correct, because he tried at the last moment, just about a couple of weeks ago, to establish a county and a city management board. And then some citizens took him to court, because at this point in time, you can't establish a city management board when people are going for the elections. There's no time for public participation. People will not be paying attention to what the public service board is doing. So as usual, the citizens who are afraid that he's just going to pack the city management board with his proteges and leave me with a problem that is not absolutely unnecessary. So there are very good reasons why he went to court. In any case, as early as 2014, I did tell him that it's important, looking at the Urban Areas and Cities Act, that he should establish a city management board and appoint a city manager. Not himself, but the board would then advertise and appoint a city manager. He didn't do that. Even the then Prime Minister, told him that it is important to do that. He didn't do that. I later then, at a meeting in Kisumu, talked to him personally and told him the importance of having a city management board, because according to the Constitution and the Urban Areas and Cities Act, Kisumu must be managed by the city management board and a city manager. Mm-hmm. He did appoint an acting city manager. Then he fired her after 9 months because they disagreed over corruption issues. Mind you, what the women are complaining about could have been easily sorted out had Nguma implemented the Kisumu Urban Project, which was supposed to run from 2012 to 2016 with a grant of 7.5 billion shillings. And part of the Kisumu Urban Project was to modernize the markets of Jubilee in Kisumu, the old municipal market, the market of Kibuye in Kisumu, and Otonglo. Now, that has not been done, again, because of inefficiency and corruption, and the money was there, but he didn't use it. So he cannot turn around and every time he fails, he blames that senator. I mean, when people take him to court, I'm not taking him to court, there are people who have taken that case to court, and he should go to court and face the consequences of his ineptitude.
All right. Let's say from also Dr. Shem Ochuodho, because I'm given to understand from the Ministry of Devolution, right now they're coming with a transitional committee to overlook, this transition that we're going to have between one governor to the next. And also this, I think, was an idea that was mooted by the Senate, with Senator Kimani Matangi coming up with the assumption of office, of governor's office bill as yet. We don't know where it has told so far. But do you think also this is coming late in the day, when this particular transition office or committee that is set up by the devolution, the Ministry of Devolution? Right.
Good morning, Debarl.
Good morning to you.
With a light touch, maybe the Kisumu people made a mistake to name one of the markets Jubilee.
It was not the Kisumu people, the colonial government. The colonial government.
Yeah, but on a more serious note,
Yes.
it would have been nice. I would want to assume that all the cities would have a city management committee.
Yes.
I haven't had any for Nairobi or Mombasa. So it's a bit difficult to cast aspersions on Kisumu. But again, Professor may be better placed to enlighten us on that. I think Senator Wamatangi had a very good bill.
Yes.
It's very unfortunate that Parliament didn't dispose of it, discuss it, and hopefully adopt it. Because what's happening currently in the country is deplorable. Because the governors, a good number of them have just gone amok. They're just spending, and nobody's paying attention, not sufficient attention in terms of protecting public assets and property. So it's unfortunate there was no proper transitional arrangement through an act of parliament. Yeah, it's said better late than never. So if devolution ministry is doing something about it now, it's commendable, but I'm hoping that the governors will take heed that there will be a government after them, and some of the wrongs ills they're doing now, assuming they're not, hoping that they're not being seen,
Yes.
they'll come to answer to them the consequences one day.
Well, cutting it too close, this should have happened right after nominations. What do you think, Isaac?
I think, first and foremost, it's very, very important to say, as you have asked Prof, that actually he's been my political mentor. It's important to say that. You can't go ahead and blame your political competitor on your own inefficiency, because these things are not happening now. You see, they are not happening now just because we are running for elections. I think it is very important to have a robust, urban program. And I remember we launched this program when I was at the office of the Prime Minister, being sponsored by the French government way back in 2012.
Yes, yes.
I remember accompanying the then Prime Minister and also Musalia Mudavadi as Deputy Prime Minister to Kisumu at the Jomo Kenyatta grounds when we launched this program. So I think it's not now that it's important, it should have already been done, because every city, deserves proper markets. And maybe also on a light touch, it's very good for Kisumu residents to have a Jubilee market in the spirit of national unity. I think it's very important. And I would also ask them, those who believe in Uhuru Kenyatta, to vote for him come the general election.
All right,
Let me just make one thing clear.
Yes.
You see, the Urban Areas and Cities Act actually mentions Kisumu and Mombasa as the only cities which should have city management board. Nairobi is a city county. Nairobi cannot have a city management board because it's a city county. It's the only city county we have in Kenya. Okay, so one has to read the Urban Areas and Cities Act to know exactly what it is saying. The Urban Areas and Cities Act, as well as the Constitution, also gives, and the County Government Act gives county governments the leeway to establish other devolution units within the county.
Yes.
By presenting bills to the county assemblies, if necessary. For example, you see, the smallest unit in the county government is the village council. And this is stipulated very clearly in the County Government Act. Now, if you don't have a village council, you don't really have the foundation for devolution. Now, there are many counties which have not established village councils under the excuse that village councils are going to be expensive. But those counties which have not established village councils are the very ones, according to me as chairman of Public Accounts and Investments Committee, which also waste a lot of money on other things which could have gone to establishing good governance in the counties. For example, look at the amount of money some counties have used for foreign travels and benchmarking and all that. It's enormous. And if you look at the results of those foreign travels looking for investors and benchmarking, there's absolutely nothing to show for it within the counties, Kisumu County being one of them. Governor Anguma has been making many trips abroad looking for investors. Not a single foreign investors come. If anything, some local investors are disinvesting. I'll give you an example. Mabati Rolling Mills has moved its plant to Eldoret. The plant it had in Kisumu is only now being as a go-down where it keeps materials which can be used elsewhere. That shows you how bad situation we are in terms of creating an enabling environment for investment, not just people coming from abroad but local investors who are ready to invest in Kisumu in all kinds of ways.
Right, thank you. Also, allow me to introduce Alice Wahome this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Debarl.
Thank you. I know you're running a flu, and I
have
really shoehorned you to be here.
Yes,
Yes,
I
yes.
have pleaded with you, but you said I must come.
Yeah, I carried the
That's
Actified, in
Yes.
case you are coughing this morning.
The Actified.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Debarl. That's okay.
Good one.
All right. Of course, we're looking at, the devolution ministry has come up with a transition committee that is going to overlook, the transition from one governor to the other. And also, this is, I think, predicated on that premise that also Senator Kimani Wamatangi had come up with a bill, the assumption of office of governor's office bill as well, which I know it is told somewhere. I don't know if it's in the Senate or in Parliament.
Still in the Senate.
Still in Senate as well.
Yeah,
what is happening in your corner in terms of
for that committee was actually presented by the Ministry of Devolution, and we had the opportunity to discuss it. I in the committee, the CIOC committee.
Yes.
And it's quite detailed, and I think it had also been discussed by other committees in Parliament.
Yes.
The importance of that is because once a governor is elected, there is, of course, the question of accountability and what they will find in office, the inventories, to basically also appraise him on where the county is, and even making it a tidy process, and receiving the entire report of the officers that were there before. And in most cases, if there is going to be transition or a change of governor, it is expected that, of course, the new governor will come with his own executive committees. And therefore, we have even given a period within which that report should actually be received by the governor before assuming office, so that as he assumes office, he's not entirely new, even assuming it's the same governor.
Yes.
But I think for record purposes, it is important that, because even the Senate will assume that this, of course, not assume, we'll take it as a new administration, so that the entire report is actually placed before the office of the governor. You know that the president's assumption of office also, especially when there is a new president, also needs to be managed and handled properly, because chaos can also erupt.
Yes, yes.
And decorum is important in those kind of official meetings. So there is also a budget that is going to be discussed, and they have a period of 45 days within which to start preparing. So the process now is ongoing. The committees for every counties are supposed to be in place, so that by the time the governor comes to assume office, then the preparation is well in place.
Right.
Yeah, the county commissioner is involved, the entire county government, the accounting officer, the secretary in the office, because there is a secretary in the office of the governor, is the one supposed to handle the process.
Right.
Yeah.
But how can we tell also, because when we were coming to 2013, and of course we had the new governors as well, coming from the local governments to now the county governments, there is a lot of assets that were not really accounted for. Right up to now, we don't know what really happened to these particular assets. The Transition Authority, the
Intergovernmental Committee.
Yes.
The Intergovernmental Committee is supposed to be doing the work of the Transition Authority. And
Not now. We're asking then. What happened to those assets that were not really accounted for? Are we just going to gloss over?
You see, the Transition Authority was supposed to take the entire inventory of both what was there, because they were working with also the national government. They were supposed to compile, and they did compile actually, inventory of all the assets that were there. Of course, I had said earlier, even when we were discussing this,
yes,
when the Transition Authority was asking for extension of time, we said no, because actually, their period was over. They were an interim authority, and they had not done as well as expected. But there is inventory in every county that is supposed now that was handed over to the Intergovernmental Committee. The Intergovernmental Committee is a very It's well managed. You know, Karega is the one who is actually the chairman now.
Professor Karega.
Yeah, Professor Karega,
Okay.
and he's a very professional person, and I think he's done a good job. And they are the ones who presented the assumption of office document. They discussed it with the Minister for Devolution. But now I think the fear of loss is still there. The possibility of loss and theft of property assets of the local authorities, the town councils, and all that is there. But I think if we do our work properly, we are going to arrest loss.
Thank you. Shem,
Let me just clarify one thing. Right. Unfortunately, the Transitional Authority did not finish its work.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Of doing the asset inventory and the liabilities. And as my sister said, it's one of the reasons why it was trying to ask for more time. So when it handed its work over to the Intergovernmental Committee for Professor Karega Mutahi, unfortunately again, the Intergovernmental Committee is not well funded. They don't really have enough personnel to do the kind of work that Transitional Authority was supposed to do. They were supposed to hand to us, the committee was chairing, the Senate, Public Accounts and Investments, a report by March on assets and liabilities of county governments. They did not, because I don't think they have completed it. Now, they had complained to us when they appeared before us. One of the things that was they had difficulties on is resources to do their work, and manpower, human power to do their work. And up to now, we do not really have a solid report, as far as I know, on assets and abilities of county. Now, we shouldn't just look at the Intergovernmental Committee. County governments itself should be in a position, after the work that was done by Transitional Authority, to have their assets properly recorded and the liabilities. The problem is that the lacuna about assets serves the rent-seeking and the corruption habits in the county. Because you see, if you don't have a clear register of assets, you can begin selling public lands to yourselves. And if you don't have a good land registry, which is digitalized, Dr. Ochuodho will tell you, manual records are very difficult to use as accounting documents in issues of land. You have seen what has been happening in ministry of land. It's worse in a county like Kisumu, by the way. That's why businessmen shun investing in such cities as Kisumu, because land which is a critical force of production, a critical means for investment, it doesn't have proper record. So you may begin putting up a building. After you've gone up to the lintel level, two people appear with title deeds, which look equally genuine. Now, when there's a dispute, you go to court. And the land environment court in Kisumu has for a long time been very ineffective. Now I think it is improved. And it takes a long time to get those cases through court. And this really hurts business, hurts investments. So I think this issue of assets and liabilities should now be taken very seriously by Professor Karega Mutahi's committee, well-funded, well-resourced, but even Professor Karega Mutahi's committee will not do an effective unless county governments themselves also play their part.
Thank you. Let's hear from Dr. Shem Ochuodho.
Debarl, I want to agree with Professor Nyong'o in one respect, that county governments have made numerous trips abroad, but with very little return to show. I don't know whether they were just going out shopping or doing what. The interesting part of it, corollary to it, is that when investors come to Kenya, or when diaspora potential investors have forums, they invite county governments, they don't seem to take them seriously. Just last week, or this ending week, Dr. Mukisa Kitui had here Jack Ma and 30 billionaires from China. I would be keen to hear how many governments, county governments especially, took advantage of some of those potential investors being around. But so having said that, to be fair to Governor Rangum, and I hold no brief for him, I do know that Kisumu, there is the breweries plant that's coming up. So in as much as things are, there is blight of investments, there are also investments that are coming in. And I remember when last year we had a diaspora cocktail, investment cocktail presided over by the outgoing vice chair of the AU Commission, Excellency Erastus Mwencha, the governor of Kisumu, the two county governments, because we had interacted with the leadership of the National Housing Commission. And the NHC said, look, if we get a county government willing to provide 50 to 100 acres of land, yes, we'll work together with diaspora and foreign investments and put up low-cost housing, a minimum maximum 3 million shillings each. At that point, Governor Rangoma said, I'm ready to sign an MOU. Equally, the Deputy Governor of Nyandarua County said, we are ready to avail land. And that's something that we are pursuing. I'm hoping that if and when Professor Nyong'o gets into office, these are opportunities we'll work on together through PPPs, private-public partnerships. But having said that, turning to the Transitional Authority, of course, Parliament would not want to admit, and I recognize that all the colleagues I have here are sitting in the current Parliament. I think they dissolved the National Authority too prematurely. If you ask me, they would have been given a little more time for the smooth transition. I have a lot of respect for Professor Karega Mutahi. He's got a track record. He hasn't been very visible, and I hope he can fully get back onto his feet to take charge of that committee, because there's a lot that it needs to be doing, and I also agree that he needs to be fully empowered to perform its function. But as for now, there is a gap that needs to be filled, because really, I think we have given the county governments too much leeway to mess up with the public properties.
Right, thank you. We will take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with that conversation with also Isaac Mwaura. We want just on the question that we're asking this morning, this is with regard to what we'll be discussing also later in the program regarding the opinion polls. Do you think Kenya is likely to face a presidential runoff on August the 8th? Do you think Kenya is likely to face a presidential runoff on August the 8th? You know the drill. Hit us on Twitter. @AMLiveNTV is a Twitter handle. @AMLiveNTV is a profile name on Facebook, and 20505 our SMS portal. We'll take a short break right now. See you on the other side of the break as we select our thirst as well. Right, but back to our panelists this morning, them also to comment on what is happening, of course, with the opinion polls. Opinion polls split on Raila Uhuru lead. We can see different tallying from Infotrak and also from Ipsos Synovate as well. And also that acts as a segue to our question this morning. We're asking you, do you think Kenya is likely to face a runoff? Do you think Kenya is likely to face a presidential runoff on August the 8th? It is on Twitter. @AMLiveNTV is a Twitter handle. @AMLiveNTV is a profile name on Facebook, and 20505 is our SMS portal. Right, we are continuing with our discussion. I've created FaceTime with Honorable Isaac Mwaura, who is a nominated member of Parliament, also a Jubilee candidate in Ruiru. Also, we do have with us Dr. Shem Ochuodho. Dr. Shem Ochuodho, he is the global leader of Kenya Diaspora Alliance, and also we do have with us Member of Parliament from Kandara, Alice Wahome, and Senator Professor Anyang Nyong'o from Kisumu. Let's continue this conversation, especially just to comment. Before we went on a short break, we said we'll circle back with you, Honorable Isaac Mwaura, to tell us more about what you think right now. After nominations, it was maybe prudent for us to come with this particular transition committee that we're talking about, because now we have a very short period where we don't know if governors, they seem to see that they're not likely to make it back into office. This is a moment for them to plunder. What do you think?
Yeah, that's very true, Debarl, because if you remember in 2002, there were such allegations that when KANU realized that it was not going to make it back to power, then there was a lot of pilferage. And when NAC took over, they actually found empty coffers, and we were even told that they had to borrow money for the free primary education at that point in time.
Yes.
And, you know, at some point, governors looked invincible because of the billions. And everybody was feeling like you cannot actually depose a governor. A governor cannot be defeated because of, obviously, also the Constitution says that they have 2 terms. But interestingly, in many places, quite a number of governors are not going to make it back to office. And then it would therefore follow that not only maybe the governors themselves, but those around them who would find themselves, jobless, would want to interfere with the public assets inventory. And they have the powers because with a very poor land registry records, we don't have a land indexing law, for example, that we anticipated that would have already passed by the whole of Parliament. Then of course that would happen. Now these are some of the teething problems when you are trying to implement a new system of governance. Debarl is the first time that we as a country have gone to elections where now governors are being re-elected or new ones will be. So it's a transitional moment. I think I would want to agree with the thought that the Karega Mutahi led authority should be given more prominence. I think Kinuthia Mwangi and the Transitional Authority really were able to capture the imagination of Kenyans because then they were the ones who were established around the time the governors had yet to be elected, and also the transfer of the responsibilities. But then, as county governments have become more robust, people are more engrossed in who is going to be the next governor of which county, I think this is being lost. So it should be by law, I think, that before maybe 1 year or 6 months before elections, that there should be these accountability measures. But also, I think this register should also be made public, so that members of the civil society, individual voters, interested groups should also question in case there is illegal transfer, because we have seen that happening. And if we are to encourage the Debarl investment, yes, then we must as well protect as much as possible government land, because otherwise then the cost of rebuying these assets and properties as to encourage investors to come to our counties is very, very high, and it is costing the taxpayer. As you've just seen in the Business Daily, about us as taxpayers having to pay 20 billion, yes, to the Chandaria farm because of some mischief by land officials at a point in time. I think these are some of the things that we need to discourage.
All right, thank you very much. All right, let's get to the topic of the day. Looking at the headlines today, what do you think about this opinion poll from Ipsos and Infotrack yesterday? They differ, all right, by a few percentiles, but how credible are they, Dr. Shem Ochuodho?
Debarl, I just wanted, before we go to that,
yes,
the
please.
point of the assets and the uncertainty in terms of managing the wealth or the resources, the monies, the whole accounting system at the county level.
Yes.
The accounting authority is the secretary to the county. The county secretary is actually an employee, and he's not leaving office with the governor. So they must understand that they will be held accountable under the law to ensure that there is no plunder that takes place between now and the time the new governor takes office. So there is going to be no excuse, and therefore allowing mismanagement at that stage, because a governor is leaving office, they will be held accountable under the law. Yes.
Thank you.